Hi there. Here are the answers to question 14. So on the Ogive online assignment, parts A through E. So first of all, 75% of subjects had a blood glucose level below 169. 10% of subjects had a blood glucose level above 262. 62% of subjects had a blood glucose level below approximately 158. So the exact interpretation of this ordered pair would be that 94% of subjects have a fasting plasma glucose level below 275 milligrams per deciliter. And then last, in context, why is the ogive completely flat between 275 and a glucose level of 350? Well, the reason is there aren't any subjects whose glucose levels were between 275 and 350. So that means the frequencies, the cumulative frequencies, and then as such, the relative cumulative frequencies, they don't increase. So the graph doesn't continue to rise between 275 and 350. It stays steady. So let's look at those exact same questions in the context of what you can see on the graphing calculator. Let me switch over here. So there is the ogive. So in part A, 75% of subjects have a glucose level below what? Well, in order to answer this, I can actually put in a horizontal line that represents that 75%. I can put in y equals 0.75 and graph it. And then I can trace, I can press the up arrow so that now I'm tracing along that horizontal line, and I can go to where that horizontal line actually intersects my ogive. Looks like right around here. So notice I'm just approximating an answer, so I wrote down an answer of 169. Of course, if you're close to that, that's perfectly acceptable. So now, question 14b is similar. 10% of subjects have a blood glucose level above what? Well, be careful. For 10% to be above that blood glucose level, 90% have to be below. So the best way to answer this question would be to put in a 0.9. So using a horizontal line of 0.9, what this is accomplishing, notice 90% of blood glucose levels will be below this intersection value, but that's the same thing as saying 10% will be above it. So you don't want to put in y equals 0.1, you need to put in 0.9. So here, again, I can trace, I can press my up arrow so that I'm tracing my horizontal line, and I want to go to the intersection of y equals 0.9 and my ogive, so I approximated it right here at around 262. Again, the logic here, this is a little tricky. I want to find the location of the graph where 10% of subjects are above. The interpretation, though, on an ogive, it gives you the percent of subjects that are below that level. So 10% above is equivalent to 90% below. That's why in the y equals menu, if you're going to use this horizontal line strategy, you need to put in y equals 0.9. So 14c, what percent of subjects had a level below approximately 158? Well, I'm not going to need my horizontal line here. I'll go back to the graph. This is where I need to just not press the trace button, but strictly press the up arrow so that I get a floating cursor. And I want to go to and follow here very carefully. I want to find an x value as close to 158 as I can. So I'm going to continue to press the right arrow until my x values get close to 158. There, I'm pretty close right there, 157.9. That's about the best I can do here since we're just approximating this. So now I need to take this cursor and get it onto the ogive. So I need to raise it a little bit. So here we go. That's pretty close to being right there on the ogive. So that point there says to me that approximately 62% of subjects have a blood glucose level that's below approximately here, this 158. That's where I got the 62%. I'm literally reading it off as the y value there. So last, notice if you do just strictly go to the graph and press the trace button, you can trace along the ogive. But understand the only things that you can trace are the specific ordered pairs that we have plotted in order to create this line graph. So 275.94. Here is specifically the point 275 and 0.94. So in the context of this question, what does that mean? We're just literally interpreting that specific ordered pair on the ogive. So by the time we've gotten to a blood glucose level approaching 275, we have accounted for 94% of subjects. That's where I got the interpretation. 94% of subjects have a fasting plasma glucose level that's below that 275. So same thing on 14E, and I'm at the exact same location on the ogive. Notice here I can use the ogive to interpret what's going on. So I'm asking why between x equals 275, so right here, why between 275 and 375, the ogive is completely and totally flat. So why is that? Notice that for all of those x values, the y value stays at 0.94. Why is that the case? Well, in fact, what this means is there aren't any subjects that had glucose levels between 275 and 350. So because of that, the percent of subjects that have glucose levels below 300 or below 325 or below 350, that percentage isn't increasing because as I increase the glucose level, starting at 275, as I increase to 300, there are no subjects that were between 275 and 300, so my percentage hasn't changed. Again, up to 325, I've included no extra subjects. The percentage hasn't changed. Once again, up to 350, I haven't included any more subjects. There was no one whose data would fit within that span. So the relative cumulative frequencies, so that percentage is not rising, and that is strictly because there aren't any subjects in our data set that had glucose levels between the 275 and the 350. That's why the graph is completely flat. So if you'd like a little bit more practice then, you can go to part 15 on your Ogive online assignment. This is going to ask you to look at question 1.13 in the textbook and do parts A and B. If you'd like to check your answer, click on the next video.